The magic number is now one. Uno, as the Leafs pick up 3 of 4 points on the back-to-back this weekend, but did lose a key team member in the process. We'll debate just how impactful that loss will be and break down the weekend's games on today's edition of Locked On Leafs.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Leafs podcast, one-stop shop for all things Leafs. I'm your host, Mike DiStefano from TSN 1050 Toronto Radio, also known as Al's brother on TSN 1050's or Overdrive, as well as TSN 1050's Leafs Lunch. Joining me, it's my co-host, Dave Morassutti from Sportsnet, also writer for the NHLPA. Locked On Leafs is a daily Maple Leaf-centric podcast, so be sure to subscribe for free wherever you get your podcasts from. You can now catch us on YouTube as well. That's Locked On Leafs for the video cast on YouTube. And today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, it's where the game starts. Well, Dave, the weekend is come and gone. Did you have a pretty good weekend? I mean, I did the most old man Italian thing today. I feel like I'm morphing into my father. I spent the afternoon pressure washing all of the deck furniture. Like the deck furniture with the whole patio all set up outside, just in time to be able to watch the playoffs outdoors. I got a nice deck with a TV, with a fireplace around it. So we got it all set up. I'll be able to watch the playoffs outdoors. But yeah, pulled out the old pressure washer and I got to work, buddy. Let me tell you, there's nothing that like the bond between an Italian man and his pressure washer. Is there?
In the springtime, no.
No.
Especially when he's wearing the
Maybe a Spro. Maybe a Spro.
Yeah, no, nothing ever beats the Spro. Nothing ever beats the Spro. I'm not in pressure washing mode just yet. I'm getting there. I had to get over that cold that made me sound like almost like noodles last week on the podcast.
Yeah, you know, the weather is just so like today, it was just like, oh my goodness, this was the beautiful day, like 25 degrees outside. I was out there, you know, in shorts and in a t-shirt and enjoying myself, absolutely enjoying myself. And it was a perfect day leading up to the game. They played the Washington Capitals, ended up with a win, 4-3 in a shootout that's coming off of the 3-2 overtime loss to Florida last night. So we'll break both those games down, and we'll also discuss. I mean, the big thing that came out of this weekend, I think, they picked up 3 or 4 points. That's fantastic. That's great. That means they just need to pick up one single point in their next 2 games against either Detroit on Tuesday or Boston on Friday, and they've locked up home ice, or they need Tampa to lose a game themselves. So one of those events happened in the final week of the season. Toronto's locked up home ice advantage. But the one thing that I would say is the biggest thing that came out of today's game or this weekend's games, they lost Michael Bunting. Michael Bunting injured his leg. There's not too much information on it right now as we stand here today. Apparently, he didn't feel good yesterday when he went to sleep. Woke up Sunday, said he felt a little bit better, which is a positive sign, but still expected to miss some time, according to Sheldon Keefe. How much time, we do not know. Does that mean a few days, a week, a couple weeks, a month? We don't have that information quite yet. Trust me, when we do, we'll get it to y'all. But man, how big of a loss is that? Like this guy, this line just kind of humming along all season. This was the one line that we had in chalk. This was it. This was written in stone, in chalk, and now going into the playoffs, the lines now kind of got to get put into a blender.
No, it's definitely not ideal. Like this was a player that everybody was excited to watch in the playoffs, and it does not sound very good when they have to run even more tests to determine what's going on with the injury. It couldn't have happened at the worst time, and this is the one thing that like when you're going through these last few games, you have to kind of temper how much are we going to go for improving our position versus how many guys we want to risk potentially injuring. You know, I don't think it was any coincidence that John Tavares got the night off.
Yeah.
He took a shot block in the game against the Panthers, and I'm just like, that didn't look so great. Like,
Well, in the game against Washington, Ilya Labushkin stopped a couple of Ovi one-timers on the power play, and I was like, I
buddy,
love you. I love the fact that you're putting your body on the line here. I love that. But like, let's just hold off for a week when you're getting in front of Ovi clappers. Let's just you give up the I don't want to say give up the goal because obviously you don't want to, but like it does make you wince a little every time. Obviously, I think it's the right call to still make that hockey play because you don't want to get into bad habits. You still want to make those plays, but it does as a fan, as somebody who watches the game. I'm sure Sheldon Keefe and Kyle Dubas just kind of wincing a little bit and just covering their eyes for half a second as Ovi winds up and Labushkin's getting ready to take that, or JT or Matthews in overtime took a shot to the back of the shin as he tried to block that one today against the Panthers. Yeah, definitely. It's the time of year where you just want to get through unscathed, no injuries as much as possible. I mean, Ovechkin, who knows what's going to happen with him? Like shoulder, got tripped up. It wasn't on purpose, obviously. Shalgren kind of looked like he went for a poke check and kind of got his stick in the skates of him and tripped him up. He went shoulder first into the boards. He left the game, didn't return, and that's big. I mean, if Ovi can't go for this club, I mean, I don't think they're going to do anything in the playoffs. I don't think they're going to anyways, because I'm pretty sure they're either going to play either the Rangers, the Panthers, or Carolina. I don't think, even with Ovi, they're going to get past either of those teams. But without Ovechkin, pack it in, pack it in. But that's another example of like another player that is, we're in the final week of the season and you just don't want to see it. I think we saw Robin Leonard. There's that situation there. Maybe we can get to that a little bit later. Darnell Nurse, an injury there, and Michael Bunting, another one of those big injuries late in the year. You just don't want to see. You really don't want to see it. But a little bit later on, we're going to put together what we believe to be the best lineup. Like if we were Sheldon Keefe and we had the lineup card with if Michael Bunting is going to miss any time, what lineup would we like to see? So we're going to put together our forward lines in the third segment a little bit later on and kind of see what things look like. But why don't we just continue to talk about this weekend's games? I mean, what stood out to you outside of the Bunting injury? The fact that I guess it was kind of an opposite night type of thing. The Leafs played better than Florida on Saturday, and then Florida came from behind to beat Toronto, but then Toronto got outplayed by the Capitals, I would say, in Sunday's game, but they were the ones who came from behind and got the win in a shootout. Kind of interesting how the script was flipped a little bit there on the second night of a back-to-back.
yeah, I don't think they were the best efforts for the Leafs, especially against Washington. This looked like a team that was playing 3 games in 4 days.
Yeah,
It was not an easy stretch. These are 3 very tough opponents. I mean, we saw what happened in Tampa. Florida isn't an easy team to go up against, and Washington. Yeah, we've seen the Leafs dummy them a few weeks ago or last
mhm,
week, but we also saw them get kind of. They didn't get manhandled, but there was some physicality there. This was not
yeah.
a game where you could just easily get by.
Right. And when you say tough, tough as in they're a good team, playoff caliber team, but also like they're a physically imposing teams as well. Tampa, Florida, and the Capitals.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
these are teams that play a specific style that doesn't exactly match up to what the Leafs like to play, and the Leafs have shown that they can beat those types of teams, but it sometimes will come at a cost.
Right. Right. I like the gutsiness to kind of stick with it though. Mikheyev kind of scores on goes between the legs, just takes the puck for a bit of a skate around the net. And then I mean it's kind of a bad goal. Like if you're the Capitals, you're probably not happy with Vitek Vanacek over that one. It gave them a little bit more life, and then they came and scored with the net empty. Again, Mikheyev doing some work in behind the net to pop it back out. Jason Spezza pokes it in, and it's 3-3. And then just to kill off the man advantage, the final was at a minute 40. Like, it was a rather lengthy 4-on-3 that they had to kill off. So I thought it was pretty gutsy to get to the shootout. And then Eric Shalgren, to me, that guy had a pretty good bounce back game, considering what we saw Thursday night in Tampa Bay, where he just got lit up and couldn't stop a beach ball. Tonight, not the case. Thought he had a great solid outing, especially in the shootout.
Yeah, I know he battled back. Like, this is the type of effort you want to see from your backup goalie, right? You know what? You may not have the most clean night in the net, but when you need to make those saves, he made the saves. Like the shootout, that gets tough, right? It gets you know it wears on you with each round. And he looked solid. He looked confident. There's
Only
a
got beat once. So he was what, 6 for 7 in the shootout?
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's not like he got beat. He got lucky. Like I don't know what's going on with Austin Matthews right now. That guy has post.
So
He pissed off somebody to like get the hockey gods off.
I do have a theory. I do have a theory on that. Why don't we take a break, actually?
Okay.
When we get back, I'll tell you my theory on what's going on with Austin Matthews, who's now goalless in 5 straight games that he's played, I believe, since hitting the 51 and 50 mark. So I'll tell you my theory when we get back. We'll go through our 3 stars of the game like we do after each and every game, and then we'll also go through our lineups. If Michael Bunting is out, what do we think the lineup card will/should look like? What would it look like if we had control over the lineups? That's what we got coming up on today's show. But before we go any further, let me tell you about one of today's show sponsors, and that's betonline.net. It's your number one source for all your betting stats and sports info. Find all our latest sports development, league reviews, and news, including this year's basketball playoffs, the NHL playoffs, and the start of Major League Baseball season. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sport wagering information, from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, it's where the game starts. Welcome back into Locked On Leafs, a daily Maple Leafs podcast hosted by myself, Mike DiStefano, my co-host Dave Morassutti. If this is your first time listening, really appreciate you taking the time, and I would really love it for y'all to subscribe if you're listening via audio, or if you're on YouTube, subscribe on YouTube. Hit that thumbs up button, the like button, comment down below your thoughts on the team heading into the final stretch here. But really appreciate everybody for giving us a listen. And just a reminder that we are a daily Maple Leafs podcast, Monday through Friday, putting out new content each and every day. My theory on Austin Matthews is we kind of saw this happen right out of the gate at the beginning of the year, right? When he missed the first 3 games of the season, and he had that wrist surgery and he was out for a little bit right ahead of the year, missed training camp. And when he got back, he was just a little bit rusty, right? And I feel like that's it right now. He's just a little rusty and just doesn't have, he just kind of lost his mojo a little bit. And it seems like things are just going off the post. He's shooting it just a little bit wide. He's not getting it all of it on his all the puck when he's shooting it. And we don't know what the injury is, but if it's an upper body injury of some kind, like a shoulder or an abdomen, like that could be influencing his shot as well. So we're not exactly 100% sure what this mystery injury is that he's been laboring over the last week that's cost him to miss a few games here. But ultimately, I think rust after missing and sitting out for a couple of games and just getting out of rhythm, because he was in an unbelievable, like the guy was scoring literally a goal per game pace. So he was on a rhythm that we've never seen since Mario Lemieux. And then having to miss games kind of got him out of that. So I think it's just a little bit of a rust factor, but also could be an upper body thing that he is ailing. Apparently it's not the wrist, but could be something else that could be affecting the shot and pushing things wide, which is a lot, forcing him to hit the net or miss the net like he did, which ended up resulted in the game tying goal. Missed the net. Mikheyev kind of got the rebound in behind and popped it out. But I think that's kind of my theory there. What do you think?
Well, yeah, it feels like it's definitely something that's it's impeding on his ability to do what he thrives in. Like he's missing shots, like he's missing opportunities really close, right? It just feels like something is a tad off. Maybe he's overcompensating a bit for the injury. It's really tough to gauge because yeah, we're once again trying to figure out where the injury might have happened, what's causing it. We're once again trying to play detective with the Leafs injury. And yeah, I feel like it's good that he's able to play. It doesn't look like he's grimacing or he's doubled over and he's clearly showing something is not right. I think that's probably uh, the positive, but if this is going to affect his ability to score, if this is throwing his shooting off, it's not an ideal situation. I will say though, he was buzzing against the Panthers. I thought he should have had a few goals, and Bobrovsky just had his number in that game.
Yeah, no, he definitely did, and I think you could. That's gonna happen, right? Like it's gonna happen where you're feeling it, but so's the goalie on the other end, and that's somewhat what we did see happen tonight. I'm just trying to see. Yeah, so Matthews, like he had 6 shot attempts. No, that was at 5-on-5. Let me see how many attempts he had altogether. So, 10 attempts, hit the net only 4 times. So 40% of his shots were on target, on goal. That's typically not what you see out of Matthews. Like, yeah, there's going to be some that are going to get blocked or that are going to go wide or hit the post. But for 60% of his shot attempts to not hit the net is not typically what you would see out of that guy. So who knows? Could be the situation here, but I mean, I'm not worried at all. Like he'll score goals. If anything, he'll just start scoring more from in tight. He's gonna go harder to the net and score from in tight. I'm really not worried at all about it. It's just something that I did notice. Um, Obviously, since he's not scoring at a goal per game pace anymore, it's easy to notice. All right, let's get to our 3 stars of the game. Dave, why don't you start with your third star?
So, my man, this was kind of a tough game to figure out, but I'll give my third star to Eric Shalgren. I thought he did pretty well to keep this is not an easy game. Your team is playing tired in front of you. There was some tough. The goals weren't exactly like stinkers at all. Like they were some decent chances on net. So I thought he did pretty well given the circumstances and to pick up the win. Pretty decent in my books there.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with you there. I mean, he allowed 3 goals. It was 2.58 expected tonight. Or no, that was sorry, I'm looking at the Florida game here. Let me look at tonight's game and see what the exact statistics were. Yeah, so very, very similar. So tonight, 2.56 expected goals. He allowed 3 and then was unbelievable in the shootout. So I also have Eric Shalgren. He's my second star, though, of the game. So Eric Shalgren, for a lot of the same reasons, I thought he made some big stops throughout the night and definitely a solid rebound performance. We kind of talked about it earlier. My third star, I went off the board here, Dave. I went off the board. I give him my third star of the game to Sam Kim and Jordan Beam.
Interesting.
Are you wondering who those people are?
I'm kind of am. Yes.
Sam Kim and Jordan Beam are the Leafs video coaches who are responsible for noting the hand pass on the disallowed goal. Well, it was the allowed goal, the one that they called the review. They called down. They said, "Hey, Sheldon, we think we got something here. There's a hand pass about 13 seconds before the goal, the Ovechkin goal on the power play. I think we can get this thing called back. You might want to challenge it." And they did. at post game, I heard Sheldon Keefe saying, "Yeah, we didn't notice it. No one on the bench, none of the players, no one said anything. It was the video guys who, and that's what they get paid to do, right? Is to notice these things." Said it was them who called down, and it was just something that worked out for them. So shout out to Sam Kim and Jordan Beam for getting the call right, calling down, and getting the goal negated. And I mean, when you look at it, when a game ends up going to a shootout, it's pretty big when you end up getting a goal called back. So yeah, wanted to give them a little love, and give them third star of this game. And then, like I said, Schalger was my second star. Who's your second star?
My second star is Jason Spezza. Vintage. I was considering putting a first star because he technically scored 3 times in this game when you
Yeah.
saw that the first one got waived. Man, how bad do you think Nick Abruzzese felt seeing
Oh,
that
I know.
his play he went offside, taking away a goal from Spezza? But don't worry, Jason Spezza, like a good vintage wine, always comes back and comes in clutch. So
Yeah.
he did that, and I mean that's shootout move. Oh,
Oh, beauty. Just roofs it
it's
with the
just like
back.
watching Matt Sundin on the shootout.
Yeah.
It's smooth. You pretty much know he's got like they asked him what he was thinking about on the move. It's hard to not think that that's where he was going the whole way. Like with the amount of speed he went with and where the angle he took, that seemed like the only move he had
Backhand
lined up.
shelf.
Yeah, but he put it in the perfect spot. Like there's no stopping that.
Well, the speed in which that puck came out too, I almost thought it went off the bar because it just like it scored and then came right out, right? So I was like, did that go in? But obviously you saw it on the replay, it did, but it was just that quick, right? Like such a quick release on the backhand. But yeah, that was great, and then obviously to tie the game. To bring it to overtime and eventually into the shootout, for sure. He was my third star, but I thought I'd go off the board, get cheeky, and go with the video coaches. But yeah, obviously a bunch of love to vintage there. Jason Spezza, he's hunting down 1,000. I don't think he's gonna get it. Unfortunately, he needs what 6 points, I think, in the final 2 games here. So I don't know if he's gonna get to it, but it's been a hell of a season for Jason, and we'll see. We'll see what type of role he can play come playoff time as well. First star of the game, Cobra.
Oh, it has to be because I thought the Leafs were done.
I know. It seemed like it, right? They just didn't have their legs. It just seemed like one of those nights. It's like, third game in 4 nights, night 2 of it back to back. They're kind of getting outplayed a little bit. A lot of the zone time has been spent in their own end. And all of a sudden, Ilya Mikheyev takes a bit of a skate around the net and then just rips one 5-hole. And it's like, okay, gave this team some life. And then, they ended up with a couple of chances to tie it late. And then eventually Spezza does. And, it was Mikheyev who also just had the behind the net work to even get the puck up to Spezza. So, yeah, I thought Mikheyev certainly number one star. And then again, to go back to Michael Bunting thing too, like Mikheyev, there's a little bit of that worry about his thumb, right? Like he kind of collided with, was it Ovechkin who he collided with? Or was it Carlson? I'm trying to remember who he collided with here. Actually, I believe I wrote it down really quickly here. Um, yeah, he collided with Ovi, and then he was seen like holding his thumb or his wrist or something like that. It seemed like he might have jammed his thumb. And we already know that he missed some significant time earlier in the year with a wrist injury. So thankfully, it doesn't seem like it's going to be any type of injury that'll take him out of action. Perhaps he misses a game for load management purposes, but I thought that he just had a fantastic, fantastic game tonight.
Yeah, I know, and this is the type of game you want to see from because when we're talking about Michael Bunting's absence and how are the Leafs going to get by it, I think Ilya Mikheyev showed he can provide a spark with that type of play. I mean, there are similarities to him and Bunting's games in terms of the tenacity. I think that's been the most apparent thing with Mikheyev this season, and Yeah, like if he can provide something out of nothing in a situation like that and be counted on in the last minute of the game, or last minute of the game to get a tying goal to be out there 6-on-5. Not only is that a great endorsement from Sheldon Keefe, but also good on Ilya Mikheyev for rewarding the head coach's decision to have him out there.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so those are 3 stars of the game. Let's take one more quick break and we get back to it. With Bunting out, why don't we take a peek and see what we believe the line should look like going into the playoffs? Because Tavares didn't play tonight, so it's not necessarily what we saw today. It's what we're going to see going forward. So we're going to kind of take the lineup card into our own hands and kind of formulate what we believe is the best lineup that the Maple Leafs could throw out there for game one of the playoffs if Bunting is not good to go. But before we get into that, Dave, Built Bar.
All right, let's talk about our good friends over at Built Bar who have the first ever protein infused marshmallow. If you've never tried them, here's basic description. They're fluffy, they're marshmallowy, they're not just a protein bar, they are a treat and they're covered in 100% real chocolate. All right. They're probably one of the best tasting Built Bars out there. They are a fan favorite for many with some incredible flavors like yummy cinnamon churro, coconut marshmallow, banana cream pie. These are likely going to be your new favorite protein bar. All Built Bars are covered in 100% real chocolate. As I mentioned, they're low calorie, high protein. You replace your candy bars with these, and frankly, these are better. Typical candy bar can be anywhere between 2 to 300 calories. If you go to the macros chart on built.com, you'll be blown away by seeing that most Built Bars contain 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. They also come in many great flavors like mint brownie, coconut almond, and new for this month, white chocolate cookies and cream. So how can you get a good deal on this? Well, go to built.com, use the promo code LOCK15 and get 15% off your order. So that is LOCK15 to get 15% off at built.com.
Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. I'm Mike DiStefano. I've got Dave Morassutti with me. We're your hosts here at Locked On Leafs, a daily Maple Leafs podcast, which you can find wherever you get your podcasts at. You can also find the video cast now up on YouTube, as well as we are on our road to 1,000. We already did the 500 sub giveaway, which, by the way, Dave, we've got the winner. I got a hold of the winner, got the address, and the Austin Matthews stick is in the mail. It's in the mail, so it's on its way to I think it was the UK. I want to say it ended up going to. So it's making its way all the way across the pond, which I love to see. But we do have another giveaway coming up once we hit 1,000. So go ahead, share this pod with all your friends. Make sure that if you're listening via podcast form through audio version, just go and subscribe on our YouTube page as well so that you can get a chance to win the next prize that we'll be giving away once we hit 1,000. Um, so the Maple Leafs with a 4-3 victory via the shootout tonight against the Washington Capitals. They fell Saturday night 3-2 in overtime to the Florida Panthers, pick up 3 of 4 on the weekend, and the magic number is now just 1 point through the next 2 games, or Tampa drops a game, and the Toronto Maple Leafs will clinch home ice advantage. Now, we could kind of put a pin on this weekend's games, but keeping in mind what came out of it is the Bunting injury. So what we're going to do here is take a look at what we believe could potentially be the most the best lineup that the Leafs could ice come game one of the playoffs, sans Michael Bunting. So I'm curious to see what 12 guys you have formulated here, which you think could get this team a game one win against whomever they end up playing in round one.
Yeah, so I'm obviously keeping in mind here that I'm not expecting Bunting to be in the lineup
Right.
when the playoffs start. So I'm assuming that, let's say if we're going to go with the lineup here, my top line here will be Nylander with Matthews and Marner. It's kind of how they did it tonight. Second line, you have Ilya Mikheyev with Tavares and Blackwell. Third line, you have Engvall with Kampf and Kerfoot. Fourth line, you have Simmons, Spezza, and maybe this might surprise you, but I'm going to go with Nick Abruzzese over
Mm,
Kyle Clifford.
interesting, interesting, interesting. That does surprise me ever so slightly. Not gonna lie, does surprise me a little bit. Oh, just because I've actually thought that the last couple of games, Kyle Clifford has played well. On both ends of the ice, and I thought that he had a couple of good chances to score in the last 2 games as well. And with an injury to Bunting, it kind of dampens the wing position. So I have him in my lineup. So my top line, same as you, I'm putting Willie up there. So Nylander, Matthews, Marner, and then Mikheyev, Tavares, Kerfoot, Engvall, Camp, and Wayne Simmons. And then I've got Clifford, I've got Blackwell, and Spezza. So that's who I'm rolling with for my 4. Now, is there a different lineup, though, that you kind of considered that you didn't end up rolling with, but you think could also potentially work? Because the one thing that I considered, legitimately did consider, is keeping Nylander on the third line so they could have 3 lines of scoring, and I thought of potentially calling up Nick Robertson and slotting him in that position
Mhm.
and kind of double shifting Nylander at times, like we saw happen tonight, actually, because Abruzzese was originally on that line. He was on that line for a little bit, but every now and then, just like we saw last year. Remember when Joe Thornton was on that line to start the year, but he only ended up playing like 14 minutes or so a game, and Zach Hyman would like kind of double or triple shift every other or every third shift. He would kind of go out over the boards with those guys. I wonder if maybe you could do that with Nylander and have him kind of play that type of role, but keep him as that third line just to spread out that scoring and kind of be a top 9 model type of team. And then if you want to have Abruzzese or you want to have, even Colin Blackwell maybe could go up there and have an opportunity to see what he could do. Potentially, like I said, Nick Robertson, who's been on fire in the AHL, their season's about to wrap up. So there was a couple of different things that I thought about. I don't know. What do you think about that though? Like having Nylander sticking on the third line and kind of plugging in a filler on that top line alongside those two, as opposed to a superstar or a star, I suppose, like Nylander.
So I also thought about a possibility where it's that Nylander, Kerfoot, and Engvall line
Mhm.
that worked really well for a while. The Nick Robertson idea is an interesting one, especially if they consider doing that with Tavares, because that's where I feel like the biggest question mark is for me. Who plays with John Tavares? Does Mikheyev get bumped up to play with Matthews and Marner? Does Mikheyev stay with Tavares? Like that's going to be the biggest question mark there. I think Nick Robertson. This is what you've been wanting to have him do, right? You want him to get into a position where he is, you know,
Top
like,
6 and let his
yeah,
offensive ability shine,
exactly
right?
right. That like don't put him in a fourth line role that we know doesn't work for him. That's not what you drafted him for. That's not where he excels. We just saw it. He excels in that top top six role where he is a big part of the offense. Like maybe they put him with Nylander and Tavares. Maybe they consider going back to that wall again. But I do think it wouldn't be a bad idea to get Robertson back out up here.
He's got 12 goals, 7 assists in 16 games since being sent down to the minors. So I mean, he could be earning another potential look here if Bunting goes down. I mean, he's not afraid to go into the corners either. He's not afraid to play that edgy style of game. If anything, I think he was a little bit too, um, you know, aggressive at times. But if you're going to be playing on a line with like Marner and Matthews, and perhaps it's a situation where you got home ice for the first game, and you can kind of dictate, okay, if we're on the defensive side of the puck, on the defensive side of the ice, maybe you throw out Willie for that one, or you could throw out Mikheyev for that one. But if we're on the offensive side of things, that's where Nick Robertson could come in, right? You win the draw, and then you have three guys who can shoot the puck. You got three different weapons and three big time shooting threats. Now that Marner's becoming a big time threat, I kind of like it. I kind of like it. At the same time, it does seem like a bit of a stretch to go from, AHL to top line NHL. But I mean, that's what Bunting did, right? Realistically, that's what he did. Yeah, there was a 21 game stint in Arizona last year in between, but he effectively went from being an AHLer for 4 or 5 years, quick 20 games last season towards the end of the year in garbage time, to being a top line stud who, has what, 60 some odd points and might be rookie of the year, right? So it's not crazy to suggest that it could work.
No, it's definitely not. And this week might actually provide Robertson with that chance, that final chance to crack the lineup.
Yeah.
Like, it would not surprise me if he gets a call up potentially to, because you're not going to be playing all your top guys this week. Last two games of the season, um, what else are you really playing for? Like, are you going to try to go all out against the Detroit Red Wings, who have nothing to play for as well? No. Do you want to give the Boston Bruins an opportunity to rough up a couple of your key players? No, not particularly.
No.
So let's let guys like Robertson get that chance. Because look, we go from Robertson being a luxury to potentially being a necessity if more injuries pop up.
Right. Right. Yeah, absolutely. It could totally be a thing. Mikheyev was one other name that I considered tossing up there. I saw a tweet by, I want to say it was Jonas Siegel of The Athletic, saying that since Ilya Mikheyev came back from his wrist surgery on December 14th, he's third on the Maple Leafs in goals with 20. Third on the Leafs in goals. Ilya Mikheyev, the guy who was so snake bitten a year ago, couldn't score to save his life, had the worst puck luck. This year, he's a 20-goal scorer. 20-goal scorer. And, earned his way up into the top six, which is what he wanted all along. Remember this
Yeah.
past summer? He was like, I want a bigger, I feel like I could do more. I want a bigger role or trade me. And they said, well, we think you're vital to this team's success, so we're not going to trade you. So he said, fine, I'll earn a bigger role, which I respect the hell out of him for going out and doing just that, especially coming off of an injury, right? Like he was injured last year for most of the season, and then this or his rookie year, and then this year to start the year, breaks his wrist in the last preseason game, I think it was, after having a real solid preseason, actually, who he had earned a top six look. And now here he is in the final month or two of the season, and he's just gone on to have a terrific kind of final stretch here, and he's found himself in the top six. So maybe he's a guy too who you give him a look up on the top line. Who knows? I think he can play that Zach Hyman type of role. He's got that type of speed. You just he can chase in after pucks and first man to the puck, hard on the forecheck, get possession, and then get it up to the big guys in Matthews and Marner. I think he can play that role effectively and then go to the net.
Yeah, no, and this is I think the offensive part of his game coming along makes it more of a slam dunk for him to remain in the top six. Like,
Mm.
if he was struggling like he was last year to get pucks in the net, we're basically saying, "Oh, we hope he breaks you. We hope he breaks you." He's doing it now, so there's no reason why you can't trust him to take on that larger role. And I think he's excelled at it. He's not the same as Hyman. I think he's a better skater than Hyman. I
Oh yeah.
think he can. Yeah, he's actually his finishes has proven to be a little bit better too when given the opportunity. Like, Hyman though does things a little bit different. I feel he's more effective in on the forecheck. I'm not saying
McKay is pretty effective on the forecheck.
Yeah.
We can't get into this McKay
No.
versus Hyman debate.
Nope.
We could probably go down
Nope.
a rabbit hole having that
I don't
discussion.
want Oilers fans coming at us right now because
No,
they'll get
and
whipped with
we're riding a McKay high right now. Let's also admit that. We haven't been
the
watching.
was struck really hard tonight.
Yeah, like a year ago, we were saying how is Hyman better than Nylander? Like that conversation was happening. Not us, but that conversation was happening within Leafs Nation. You know it was, right? So you were having that
I
conversation, weren't
was
you?
definitely not having that
Yeah,
conversation.
you were. Yeah, you
Nope.
were. Maybe it wasn't was he better, but it was he more important to the team's
Yeah,
success?
I would say, was he more valuable to the team's
Yeah, I
success?
think that was the conversation rather. Not is he better than, but is he the most valuable, like, was he the third most valuable player to this team? I think that's what the discussion was. But anyways, either way, Sheldon Keefe has options. You know, I think there are options. Clearly, we hope that this injury is not going to be long term, and you can get Bunting in there, and he can continue to have success with these two. And we want to watch him play in the playoffs, be a little bit of a bleep disturber, like we know he can be. And it just helps fill out the rest of the lineup. You know, the second you start to get injuries, it attacks the depth. And right now, this team's depth is rolling. It allows them to kind of cycle in the Simmons and Cliffords and Spetzas. Although Andre Cash has been skating too, so he's even an option who could pop up there.
I was just about to bring him up. We
Yeah,
might
he's
have
just
some news on him tomorrow as well that we'll talk about on tomorrow's podcast.
yeah. So we'll see what happens, but there are plenty of options at the very least for Sheldon Keefe and this lineup card. All right, Dave, let's call her a night here. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. That'll do it for us here today on the podcast. I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all podcast platforms. Receive daily Leafs content. Follow myself on Twitter at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at D_Morassutti. Follow show at Locked On Leafs. And you can also now go and follow us and subscribe on YouTube. Locked On Leafs on YouTube. We're back with another episode tomorrow. It is the 81st game of the season, the final meeting between the Maple Leafs and the Detroit Red Wings. So we will tee up that game tomorrow morning for y'all. But until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On.